Hello, and thank you for joining me. Today I'm going to be talking about a fascinating film from 1988 called The Blob. This is a remake of the 1958 film with the same title, The Blob. Essentially, The Blob is about an alien-like creature which is known as the Blob. Basically, a meteor or a meteorite comes down from space, lands on some small California town, and ends up drawing attention to itself. And a homeless person, a homeless man, ends up finding the meteorite and consequently the blob, or the liquid, which will soon become the blob. And this liquid, or this alien-like creature, ends up possessing the man's hand. And then it gradually, over the course of the film, gets larger and larger, consumes more of the man, until it consumes him entirely, and then attempts to take in further victims. And that's essentially what happens throughout the film. As the blob consumes the original host that it attached itself to, it continues to attach itself to new people until it just gets so large that it just consumes them entirely. And then also consumes essentially the entire city and everything that it comes across. Now, I enjoyed this film immensely. I've seen it several times now, and I'm of the perhaps minority view that this film is actually superior to the original 1958 version. Now, of course, this does not happen very often. That is to say, it's not often that the remake surpasses the original, but in the case of The Blob, I do think that this is the case. I feel that the remake, and this could just perhaps be this could just lie in a personal preference with regard to structure and with regard to special effects and these kinds of things. But one thing that I enjoyed immensely about the Blob remake, the 1988 version, was its reliance on authentic effects and just great makeup effects in general. The Blob itself, at times, there are a few scenes where the Blob is sort of questionable with regard to its authenticity, but the actual gore effects were phenomenal. And there are a number of scenes where you have the Blob just consuming people entirely, just engulfing them, and then them just kind of becoming this gigantic pile of gore and spewing innards and so forth. And then there are other really neat scenes, which I just found absolutely phenomenal, where people die through these kinds of really unfortunate ways. One man gets sucked into a sink, like a sinkhole or drain hole, by the Blob. So the Blob is coming out of the sink, and then he pulls in this man, and then he's just sucked in, and it's an absolutely amazing scene. Aside from that, the film, it was just highly entertaining to me. There was never a point in the film where I felt that it was lagging, or that I was losing attention, or that I found it boring. Throughout the entire running time, it kept my attention. It had the often conveyed 80s sort of cheese feel to it. Of course, the late 80s feel. And it really embodies everything that I find so endearing about 80s horror. And with that being said, I mean, I really can't recommend this movie enough. It's certainly one of the best horror films that came out in 1988, and one of my favorites, probably, of the last half of the 80s. So I certainly recommend that you check it out. In terms of a rating, on my SCAR scale, I would give The Blob a 4 out of 5. That is to say, 4 scars out of 5. And again, it does come with a very high recommendation. I suggest you check it out, and please do let me know what you think of it if you do check it out. So, thanks for watching.